Hi, everyone. I'm Paul Kigabine at the Garland County Library, and I'm here with Mary Zunick, who is the Hot Springs Cultural Affairs Manager. And we're here with another surprise episode in the Gallery Walk Talk series. We had originally planned for six, but we are extending that for a few more episodes at least. And I'm glad to have you back, Mary.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I'm a little blurry. I'm sorry. I'm not sure what's up with the computer, but maybe it'll, magically fix itself here in just a
I know
minute.
it.
So
It seems like every time between our behind the scenes and then our countdown, something. There's always a
something
technical difficulty.
happens. Yeah. So anyway, it's okay. We won't be looking at me very much anyway. So we're here to talk about and look at art and music and all that make Hot Springs such a wonderful place to live and visit, and highlight some of the activities that will be going on over the next few days and really throughout the month of September too.
That's right. And if you're watching this live, I hope everyone is safe. We had a storm here in Hot Springs, and uh, it seems like it affected about half the city. I know there's some people that said they didn't get any rain, and where I'm sitting at, there's been thunder all over the place. But I hope everyone's safe. And Mary is about to introduce a special guest here shortly, Carole Katchen, and I'll let her give a formal introduction to her. But I'll turn it over to you, and everyone enjoy the program.
Thanks so much, Paul. For you, if all of you at home that are watching, if you could see my desk, it's just covered with pieces of paper, just little notes about everything that's going on that we kick off this weekend. And of course, we're here to talk about Gallery Walk, so we're going to cover some of the activities that are going on with Gallery Walk. But before we start talking about Gallery Walk and the visual arts, I would really like to highlight Blues Fest and Jazz Fest. Now, those started out together, I think 29 years ago, something like that. It's been a few years. A lot of people don't know that when they first began, it was one festival that highlighted both blues and jazz. Well, they've had been on the same weekends and different weekends, but this year we're very fortunate to have a weekend filled with blues and jazz. Jazz, actually, there's something even going on this evening at the legendary Vapors. So for those who are there tonight and enjoying jazz at the Vapors, maybe they can catch this program later on in the week. So that's getting kicked off with jazz and then blues festival. Really, both of them hit it on Friday evening. Friday, September 3rd, down at Hill Wheatley Plaza. Blues Festival is completely free this year. Not only is there's a tent and everybody can bring their lawn chairs, and that way everybody can be outside and socially distant. There'll be, of course, great music, great blues musicians. It kicks off on Friday evening at 5:30 with the Spa City Youngbloods, some up and coming local blues musicians. They always do a great job. And then Trey Johnson and Jason Willman. And then Friday evening at 8 p.m., the Ghost Town Blues Band. And they have horns and an organ. And I've heard about the Ghost Town Blues Band. And then on Saturday, Blues Fest continues at 5:30 p.m. with Port City Blues Society players, Josh Parks Band, and Reba Russell and her band. And again, another great lineup. There's food trucks. There's all sorts of beverages available for purchase as well. And again, bring your lawn chairs and get out and enjoy great music at blues if you enjoy the blues. But if jazz is more more of your liking, Jazz Fest, the Downtown Jazz Fest is Saturday, September 4th, also free. And it kicks off at 11 a.m. And now blues is taking place right on Central Avenue around the Visitor Information Center at Hill Wheatley Plaza. But where jazz has taken place for many years is on around the corner under the Regions Bank walkway there going across Broadway. And so that's a free concert. Again, bring your lawn chairs, and it starts off at 11 with the 106th Army National Guard Band. There's Taylor Smith and the Roman Jasmine Band, the band from Henderson, which I've heard great things about, the Infusion Band, Rodney Block. And Rodney Block is awesome. He's one of my favorites. Trumpet player. He plays at 2 o'clock. And then, of course, our beloved Shirley Chauvin and Sharon Turrentine. Some wonderful bands at 3 p.m. And then the Arkansas High School Jazz Band at 4, and the Tabitha Graves collaboration is at 5. So a weekend filled with blues, jazz, and finishes up on Sunday, the Stardust Big Band Tea and Dance. And that takes place at the Arlington, a $10 admission for that, but a wonderful, a lovely afternoon of jazz there. So blues and jazz this weekend. And then on in September, around the middle of the month, the Muses Creative Artistry Project has some wonderful programming, several concerts all around Hot Springs in Central Arkansas. And all information about that can be found, all of these can be found on hotspringsarts.org. You can just visit that. There's links to their websites. And I would encourage you to just always check hotspringsarts.org to kind of find out what's happening, to find out locations for Gallery Walk. That's the Hot Springs Area Cultural Alliance website. And you can also always find information on hotspringsarts.org, or I'm sorry, hotsprings.org. So hotsprings.org or hotspringsarts.org for what's happening in Hot Springs. So we've talked about music, and now it's time to move on and talk about Gallery Walk. Gallery Walk is the first Friday evening of every single month, without fail. Downtown galleries stay open late. They open new exhibits. It's just a great time to be downtown Hot Springs. And I would encourage you all to please be safe. We still, encourage people, please wear your masks. Even if you're vaccinated, please put your mask on in the galleries so that we can continue this wonderful tradition and stay open and keep everyone safe. Galleries are all across Hot Springs. We're very fortunate to have Hot Springs, here in Hot Springs, to have multiple galleries and arts organizations that participate in Gallery Walk. And we even have some pop-up galleries. And what that is, that's a business that becomes a gallery for the evening. And that's great that some of our downtown businesses really celebrate our thriving arts community here in Hot Springs. So for Gallery Walk, I'll start off up Whittington Avenue, which Whittington Avenue, if you go all the way up to Emergent Arts, this is the first time since the pandemic began that Emergent Arts is going to be open for Gallery Walk. They're opening a new exhibit, and the theme of this one, I think, is so appropriate. It's called Holding It Together. And it's a collage exhibit featuring multiple artists. So if you want to start there, you're right next to Dryden Pottery when you're there. Zach Dryden will be throwing pottery, and Dryden is such a beautiful, historic place to find traditional Hot Springs arts. So you want to be sure to start off there. Then come on down to Whittington Avenue. Whittington Gallery will feature live demos by Brett Anderson, Bree Harris, and Bill Alley. And there's, I think, up to 40 different artists represented at Whittington Gallery. And if you continue on down Whittington Gallery, or on down Whittington Avenue, I'll get that straight, to Collective Coffee and Tea, Jeremy Rogers, a very talented Hot Springs photographer, has a great exhibit there called Work in Progress. So continuing on down Central Avenue, if you make a right there on Central Avenue, Gallery Central is located on the first floor of the Waters Hotel, and it not only features some incredible artists, but there's also lots of fun fashions and gift items in there as well. And then on down, Artist Workshop Gallery. They have a number of different artists exhibiting. Christy Alquist is one of the featured artists this month, and Glenda Mulliken. Their beautiful paintings there at Artist Workshop Gallery. And then a new gallery opened this month, or a new pop-up gallery, DeSoto Rock and Gift Shop. They have 10 different artists. One of them is K.E. Ford. He's a part of the Art Moves exhibit, those reproductions that are down along the Greenway Trail. And his artwork, there's 10 artists there at the DeSoto Rock and Gift Shop. All Things Arkansas. Not only will you have an opportunity to see some Arkansas arts and artisans work at All Things Arkansas, but you'll be able to enjoy the music of Ben Carey while you're there. And then on down from All Things Arkansas is American Art Gallery, the oldest continuously open gallery here in Hot Springs. Claude Lambert will be there, talk about knives and his leather work. And then Justice Fine Art Gallery, and two very familiar names in Hot Springs, beloved by many and respected, and the work of Linda Williams Palmer. Her Arkansas Champion Trees will be the featured exhibit, and watercolor paintings by Gary Simmons. So those two artists are just synonymous with the Hot Springs arts community. And then the Warehouse, that's another one of those pop-up galleries. And there's it's like an arts festival and a concert all wrapped up in one at the Warehouse. So I just encourage you, if you get out, start off with Gallery Walk, and then when you finish up with Gallery Walk, move on over and enjoy the blues. Invite your friends into Hot Springs and enjoy a weekend full of art. And now you'll notice when I was going through Gallery Walk and all the galleries, I didn't talk about Legacy Gallery. I'm saving that one to last. Legacy Gallery this month, they're featuring artist Hissam Abrashami and Goli Mahalati. And I apologize because I think I probably mispronounced those names. But in addition to these featured artists, you could also see the work of our guest this evening, Carole Katchen. Carole's work can be found at Legacy Gallery. And so, Paul, if you would bring Carole up on the screen with me, please. Hi, Carole.
Hello.
See, and yours, I don't know if I hope I don't look as fuzzy to everybody else as I do to me, but your picture is great. So thank you. I can see you there in your studio, and thank you for joining us this evening. And I always, I've been talking quite a bit and everybody's heard my voice. And so I would like to just introduce you. And would you please, instead of me reading your bio word for word out loud, would you tell us a little bit about yourself, Carole?
Sure. I started out writing and drawing when I was very, very young. And I loved doing both of them. But when I got to be in about, the 6th or 7th grade, my art teacher told my mother that I would never be an artist because I just didn't have the talent. So after that, I just, I continued to write, and I did illustrations to go with what I was writing. Then when I was in college, Scholastic Books published the first children's book that I wrote for them. It was called I Was a Lonely Teenager. I wrote it and did the drawings, and the book sold 700,000 copies. And I was so young then, I didn't even know that that was a big deal. But that encouraged me to really get more serious about the art. And so I took some art classes and met other artists and started playing with different media, and it just took over my life.
And now you've been in Hot Springs for a few years now, but could you tell us where, kind of what path led you to Hot Springs? You didn't start, you're not an Arkansas native. I don't hear Arkansas in your voice.
No, I grew up in Denver, and then I did a lot of traveling, including some trips where I hitchhiked with a photographer friend all the way across North Africa and then all through Central America. And on those trips, I took materials to sketch and paint, and they ended up becoming exhibits in this area. And then also, I was invited to have an exhibit in Bogota, Colombia, which was very fun. And I continued to travel, I continued to paint, and I showed in galleries throughout the United States, in Taiwan, in Shanghai, and it has really taken over my life.
Well, we're
So,
very fortunate that you found your way to Hot Springs.
yes, I came here 26 years ago. I had been living in Los Angeles for a few years by then, and I was told that Hot Springs was the art city in America. So I came and I decided I just did not want to leave.
Wonderful. And now, in addition to creating your own artwork, you also teach, correct?
Yes, yes. And I love working with students. And the way I teach is a little bit different from the way a lot of art teachers have their classes. Most teachers have a specific assignment every class, and they give you a particular subject to draw or paint, and then work with you on the colors, and everybody in the class does the same thing. In my classes, um, I've always wanted to encourage the students to decide what they want to paint. So my students come into my class with an idea of what they would like to create. A lot of them have never painted before in their lives, and it's really exciting to watch them just dive in and create fabulous images. So that has been a big part of my life.
Well, wonderful. And now I think we're going to start. I have a little program put together with several pieces of your work, and Carole is always a part of studio tours. Carole and her artist there on her studio. Now, where is your studio located, Carole?
It's 620 West Grand. For people who know West Grand, you know where the Dairy Queen is. And I'm about half a block before the Dairy Queen. And then you come to the Riley Brothers Glass Gallery. So that's where I am.
Well, and so part of our little presentation this evening is the video from studio tours. And so you'll get to actually get a little tour around Carole's gallery or studio and gallery space, and meet some of her students as well. So I am going to, so we can get that started. And this is where I always, okay, I'm going to do it right this time.
I'm here on standby, Mary.
Okay, thank you. We'll see if I started from the beginning. There we go. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, very good. So we'll get started here. And I just love this quote. Carole, I'm going to have you say this quote out loud because I want to hear it in your voice.
Okay. How lucky am I to be able to spend my whole life painting the world around me? I can't imagine anything more fun or more challenging than painting the people I've met over these many years.
Oh, that's perfect. That's perfect. So now we're going to visit Carole in her gallery here with the YouTube video.
Carole Katchen. I'm an artist. I've lived in Hot Springs for 12 years now. I was an artist for 30 years before I came here, so I've been doing this for a very long time. This is my studio, and I've been using this as a place to teach other artists how to paint. And it's been great fun. It's given me a chance to meet other people and share their vision and their experience. And they have grown, I've grown. It's been a wonderful thing. Lately, with the coronavirus, I closed the studio down for a while, and then we decided to switch the classes out so that we have 4 or less students each class, and everyone wears a mask, and it works very nicely. So, what I like to do as a teacher is to look for the individual vision that each student has, because I believe that every person has their own way of seeing the world, and that's what you want to capture in the paintings. So I like to help the students figure out what it is that they want to paint and then help them paint stronger in that way. We work on some basic principles. I talk a lot about capturing shapes, looking at how the light falls, figuring out where to put the different colors in order to create a sense of three-dimensional depth. But all of this is put into the process of them learning how to express what they want to paint.
I've been with Carole's class for 8 years now, and I've found that besides the beautiful studio with the wonderful natural light, it's the group dynamic and the gentle and constructive criticism that helps my own work advance and get better.
I started painting about 2 years ago. My neighbor got me into it and encouraged me to come. I do like being here. It is so relaxing. I can throw myself into the painting and forget the world is around me. And I enjoy seeing the others paint because I learn a lot from that.
I ask the students to decide what medium they want to work in. So most of them either work in oil or acrylic. Sometimes we have someone working in pastel, very rarely watercolor. That's a different kind of way of painting. But they bring materials. I help them figure out how to paint to the canvas in order to achieve the effect that they want. In my own paintings, I've been experimenting a lot with collage lately. A friend of mine gave me several bags full of fabric scraps, and I found that there were all these wonderful textures in there. So I've been cutting up the texture, applying it to canvas, and then using that as the basis for all sorts of paintings. I've done everything from a deer in the backyard to ballerinas to people standing around talking and drinking. And it's been quite a challenge to figure out how to focus on texture first and bring in the color and the line afterwards. I hope this inspires you to be more creative in your own life. And please come visit the studio sometime. We always love to see new people. Even if you don't want to paint, just come and say hello.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for studio tours each year. Now, we all have a very special treat because in addition to Carole sharing her work with this evening, she's going to walk us through her process. So I'm going to kind of turn it over to you, Carole, and you can just tell me when to advance to the next one, if you don't mind.
Okay, great. I always feel that the most important thing in a painting is the way you arrange the shapes. So you can see that's what I do in the beginning of any piece. With the chef or with the waiter, we've got just a few shapes, and I put in the background to help define what the shapes are. So we can move on. And you can see once I get into the figure, then again, it's creating shapes, the shape of the hair, the shape of the vest, the shape of the bow tie. And gradually I start to refine things, although in many of my paintings, especially the chefs and waiters, I don't worry too much about making them too refined. I like them to be light and fun and really concentrate on the energy and the feeling of the figures. And there is the final chef.
Now,
Waiter.
what medium is this?
I believe this is oil.
Oil. And now, how do you choose which medium you will use for each piece?
I do most of my paintings with oil these days because oil is very forgiving. Acrylic is wonderful because it's easy to clean up and it doesn't require a lot of chemicals. But when you get a few layers of acrylic on your canvas, it begins to lose its shape. It loses the texture. With oil, you can put 10, 15 layers of paint on the canvas and it just keeps getting more interesting.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, I didn't realize that part. Okay. Oh, and now your dogs. You are so well known for your animals. I bet half of Hot Springs has, or not that many, I wish, but has your one of your animal drawings.
Yeah, I actually tell people that I like animals more than people. And when you're painting animals, you don't have to worry about your subject complaining that you made the nose too big or the eyes too small. So this is the beginning of a dog portrait, and you can see, as with everything, I put in the shapes first of all. And then I begin to refine things a bit. With dogs, the expression is almost everything. And there's the final dog.
What was this? Is this your dog or was this a commission that you did for someone else?
I did lots of commissioned paintings of people's dogs and then also of people, families, groups of friends. It's always fun for me to try to capture the personality of my subject, whether it's a dog or a person.
Well, your both have always have lots of top personality, and talk about personality. Carole shared this on Facebook. I think the portrait that she did of these two very familiar faces in Hot Springs, Davis and Sue Ellen Tillman. And okay, so let's get started. I think I even knew who they were when I saw this sketch.
Well, the main thing with the Tillmans, as with so many people, is that the way they hold their bodies says a lot about who they are. And that's what was so great about this photograph, is it has a lot of movement within the poses. So that's where we started. And you can see I then refined it a bit, and I added a crowd behind them because I thought it would just be more appropriate for them to be in a crowd of people. And these particular outfits that they were wearing were for Derby days at Oaklawn. So it figures that there would be more people with them.
Well, and they are always the life of the party when they are there. For those of you who don't know, Davis and Sue Ellen host the Barons Ball, one of the biggest parties in Hot Springs. That'll be in November. But yeah, they're always the life of the party.
Right. So you can see as we move along, I'm always refining the shapes. It's just the bottom line for me. That's what makes the painting. And then finally, I start concentrating on colors and values, which areas are light, which ones are dark. And one of the things that I do in order to bring the foreground forward, to give the painting a sense of depth, is I'm generally make the brightest and strongest colors right in the front. And as it goes back into space, everything blends together a bit. And there we are, the final painting of Davis and Sue Ellen.
And I just had to do this so you can see how lovely, what a great portrait of the two. Now, how large was this painting?
I don't really remember. I do so many paintings that the sizes kind of disappear in my mind. I'm guessing maybe 24 by 30 inches.
And is it more difficult to do a larger painting like this or one that's, say, half that size?
Oh, I think the larger the painting is, the easier and more fun it is. As you get smaller, every single stroke that you make is so important. I think that takes a lot of the fun out of it. So I love to work big.
Okay, and now we'll move on to the next series that you sent.
Well, what I have started doing is I walk my dog early every morning, and I have been noticing the sun in the morning, and it's always just a fabulous, I don't know, an interesting relationship of colors and light. And what I decided to do with this particular landscape was paint the background first and then add everything on top. So that is the background.
And again, this is in oil?
This is oil, yes. And you can see then I add the next layer of trees and leaves in front of the sky.
And just to go back to the first one, how long does it take you to do the first stage before you started adding the color, just the sun and the sky?
Mary, it depends. Because it sets the tone for the entire painting, I like to take my time and make sure that I've got the feeling exactly right. So I can spend hours on something as simple as that.
Well, you can tell there's so much movement in the variations and the shades and the strokes. It's that I love even the very first stage that you did before you started adding the color.
And my idea as I did this was to put crepe myrtle bushes in the front. So you'll see that as we go along. So there I'm beginning to define the shapes of the crepe myrtles. And then eventually we will get into the colors of the blossoms. But you can see how I put everything, in layers so that the very front of the painting happened last. And there I'm refining the colors of the background, put in more of the shape of the bushes. And then pretty soon we get the actual color of the crepe myrtle bushes. And you'll see that I made the green at the bottom of the painting. Originally I had that fairly light, and I decided if it was that light, it would detract from the background. So I made the bottom pretty dark.
Mm.
And in the final painting, and you can't see it too well here, but I distinguished some of the blossoms. I added little yellow spots here and there to indicate the centers of each flower. And
now, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say that I put this one on Facebook in each of the stages, and I was just delighted at how much people enjoyed seeing how the painting developed. And this one will be on display at Legacy Gallery on Friday.
Oh, wonderful. Now, is this from an area in your neighborhood?
Yes, I live on Prospect Avenue, and I walk the dog, for maybe between half a mile and a mile around the neighborhood. And I always have my camera with me. So I take pictures of whatever is interesting. It could be the sun, or it can be, the way the leaves grow on trees, or it can be bushes. I'm getting ready to do one where I'm going to have a flower garden in the front. So I'm always taking pictures.
And now, when you paint or when you choose a subject for a painting, do you have a particular audience in mind, or do you paint for yourself?
Um, I I think about other people, and I think about how they are going to respond to the image, because I don't want to assume that just because I know something is one way that my viewers will know it. So I feel a responsibility to help the viewer see what I see. They're very much
That's
a part of
beautiful. It looks like my driveway. It looks like my driveway with my line of crepe myrtles are so popular here, and it's just beautiful with your bare uh, base and the flowers on the top. Okay, now we'll move on. We've gone through the process, and now we get to see some of your finished paintings. And you have such great party scenes. And so I would like you to tell me a little bit about this party scene, and you also need to tell us how you choose your names for your paintings, because that just makes the painting to me.
Well, these scenes actually started when I moved to Hot Springs, because people think that in Los Angeles people are very elegant and dressed up and concerned with being proper, but they're not. LA is very, very casual, and I lived there for 9 years, and then I moved to Hot Springs, where when you go to a party, everybody is dressed perfectly, and the women have perfect hair and perfect makeup. And it was such a different kind of social interaction from what I had been used to. So I started going to parties and noticing the people, and that's who showed up in my paintings. So what I like to do is capture the interaction of the people at the party. So here we have a couple that is the center of attention, and she is saying, "Would I lie to you?" Off to one side is a woman watching her and thinking, "Yes, of course you would. You always lie." But we don't really say that. And then behind her, we've got one of my usual wine waiters and several people standing around watching the rest of the crowd.
That is such fun.
And the dresses have been a new element that I've been adding. I've been getting more and more involved in fashion design in my painting.
I would like to go back to this, because could you tell us the different layers of the dresses?
Well, with the red and white one, that one pretty much started out the way it was. But with the other one, I did it in pieces and just let it grow together. I let the area around her bosom and shoulders is like a flower garden, and so then I wanted the stalks to come down, like the flowers are actually growing in the dress.
And this was, I invite all of you to go to Carole Katchen's Facebook page, because she is so kind to share her process. And I remember you sharing several iterations of this as it progressed, and it was fun to see it take shape.
Well, they're always a challenge for me, and I almost never know exactly how it's going to end up when I start out. I'm not one of those artists who draws a very fine drawing and then fills in the shapes and colors. And I know some wonderful artists who work that way. But for me, every painting is an adventure. So here are some more of my gossips. The two women on the left, one is telling her friend, the only way to please whatever man you're with is to always agree with him. So that's what she's saying. And then it was actually one of the dealers at Legacy Gallery who came up with the title for this one. he thought Unholy Trinity was a perfect name for these three women. But again, you
And I'm
can.
sorry, you cut out just a second there. Who came up with the title for this one?
It was Richard Geip, who's one of the owners of Legacy Gallery.
Oh.
And you can see.
Well, this.
Yeah,
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
he saw the image, and that's just what it meant to him. But you can see how I have the three women looking off into the distance. You don't know what they're looking at, but it's something that they're finding very entertaining.
And a little gossip going on probably too.
Oh, absolutely.
And now, okay, are these real people that you base them on, or do
No,
they?
I paint real people in my commissions, but in the paintings I do for myself for fun, I sort of it's like casting characters for a movie. I know what I want the person to look like. I know what I want them to do. I know what I want them to be thinking and saying. So I just paint a character who will fit that situation.
Well, they all very much have their own character, that's for sure, their own personality.
Well, they're a lot of fun to do.
Oh, sorry, I left this one in there. We'll get a second look at Yes Dear.
Well, also, I want you to notice that I like to put people in the background as well, so that you get a sense of where this is taking place, that they are gossiping and looking at people in the midst of a big party.
And that's one thing with the pandemic. I've missed those parties, those get-togethers and fundraisers and galas and all of those places where people get dressed up and go visit with friends. I'm glad we have Gallery Walk opening up again, and certainly look forward to getting back to even more normal after this. And okay, now to some chefs.
Oh, I love chefs. And the way that I got involved in doing chefs is at one point when I lived in Denver, a friend of mine bought me a membership in a mime class. So I learned to study pantomime. And my teacher, his name was Claude Coe, and he had studied with Marcel Marceau in France. Claude was a wonderful mime, and I got to know him and his wife very well. They ended up moving to Houston, and I went down to visit them a few times. But the first time I went, they had a big dinner party. There were a bunch of people there. And Claude came out. He was very French looking, large nose, a goatee, very expensive eyes, big ears. And he was wearing a chef's hat and a chef's outfit. And the hat was pulled down so that his ears were poking out to the side. So I took some photos of Claude. And later, when I looked at those photos, I decided I had to paint him as a chef. And then that just opened up the whole world of chefs and restaurants, because chefs think that they control the universe. So they have a tremendous amount of personality. They're always fun to do. And what's interesting about these two is that I combined oil with my technique of collaging the first layer. So the first layer of these two paintings was comprised of various kinds of fabric and cardboard and things. And I put that in place, and then I started adding color.
So when you put that in place, did you have a sketch first so you kind of know where to put the other textures?
Yeah, I do a very loose sketch so I know where things are going to be. Like I wanted to know where the flowers would be and where the oysters would be, because I had to have particular textures for those things.
And how do you choose the color, the combination of colors for, say, the chef paintings? Not something that you're literally reproducing a specific image you're looking at as in a commission, but for these?
Well, with my chefs, they're costumes are usually white or white and black. So um, the main color goes into what's around them. So it makes a different kind of process from what I'm normally painting. And then also because they're making food or drinks, that has to be fairly realistic.
Okay, and now we'll move on to, oh, here's some more wine wakers.
Yes, I just have so much fun with them. They just act like they run the universe.
Well, and their nose, you've got a thing for noses. Their noses are always in the air.
Well, most of the time, yes, unless they're stuck down in a glass of wine.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I think I've seen some of those too. The perfect red.
Yeah, they're just fun.
And now we move on to some musicians, which is perfect for this weekend with blues and jazz. And now, is this a new series for you?
I have always done musicians. Well, musicians and dancers. When I lived in Denver, I had friends who were dancers and who were musicians. I was invited to attend rehearsals of the Denver Symphony Orchestra, and they let me go in and sit in the middle of the musicians with my paper and pastels spread out around me on the floor of the theater. So it's been a part of my life and my art from the beginning. And every so often I go back and do some more. These were recent, but based on images and ideas that I've had along the way.
Yes, and I would like to mention also that one of your pieces that you
Yes,
did several years ago as a part of the Art Moves exhibit down along the Hot Springs Creek Greenway Trail.
yes, that was one that I did from a musician with the Denver Symphony Orchestra, and he happened to be one of the first Black musicians to be hired by a national symphony orchestra. So that is it. It was a woodblock print of Charles Burrell.
And now, can
Yeah.
you tell us a little bit about this piece?
Um, I do sketches whenever I'm someplace where I see something that's really exciting. I tend to do sketches, and I've done lots and lots of musicians, so I'm able to go back and find studies that I've done over the years. The thing is, though, whether I'm doing musicians or flowers or parties or whatever, I always go back to the shapes. It's the shapes that make up the painting. And if they're not working together, then the painting doesn't work. So you've got the main figure whose body is very, very lyrical. And then he is backed up with other musicians and then a whole crowd of people watching him.
The Beat Goes On.
Yes.
You that title, what inspired that?
Oh, it's just, you know, jazz titles.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is oil also. So.
Yeah, this one is oil. This one is pastel. And you can tell that the colors are a little bit softer. When I started out, I did a lot of pastels. It's a medium that I love to work with. The problem with pastel, though, is that you're working on paper. So the surface is fragile and the medium is fragile. So it has to be matted with an acid-free mat, and it has to be framed behind glass. So that makes it very hard to ship it, to hang it. So over the years, I have limited my work in pastels. These are relatively new. It was fun to go back and play with those colors again. And this is another one of my bass players. I have millions of bass players. I just love the way they interact with their instrument.
And now, is this a specific bass player or just
This one is not. This one I took from several sketches that I had done over the years of bass players.
So will you be out this weekend sketching?
I might. I never
With all
know.
with all of the music going on, I'm sure there'll be some characters.
Oh, absolutely. I have a lot of drawings that I did during the jazz and blues festivals over the years. And we're very lucky that we have musicians performing at the farmers market as well.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm glad that you mentioned that because the farmers market every Saturday morning, it's absolutely filled with not only great fresh vegetables and fruits, but also there's always artisans there with different craft items and music, like Carole mentioned. So it's not just to go buy your zucchini. There's lots of other reasons to go to the farmers market as well.
Right. And you can get right up next to the musicians, which I think is a lot of fun.
Oh, I love these guys.
Now,
Now,
this is
are these young? These look,
hmm,
go ahead.
this
Go
is
ahead,
another
please. I didn't mean to interrupt.
with shapes. You can see how I broke it down into just simple shapes and colors. This one is one where the color was really, really important. And with pastel, you're able to build up a lot of layers of strokes to create varieties of color.
And to me, these guys look young.
Yes.
I like that. I like the title of that too. That the beat go, this is the beat goes on. That this is the youngest, the next generation of the beat.
Exactly.
And now on all of these, how do you know when you're finished?
Oh, Mary, that's kind of hard because lots of times I think I'm finished and I go back and look at it and realize that I left something out or I did something wrong or I put too much in. And so I'll go back and make changes. One of the hardest things for an artist is that as you're painting and you look at your painting, you think you can see what's there, but you really don't see what's there. You see what your eye thinks is there. So it's wonderful that we have cameras on our phones these days and we can take pictures of anything because that's a great way to see what you actually have and not what you think you have. Another thing that I've learned over the years is to take a painting and look at it in a mirror. So you see it backwards and then you can see the shapes and colors, you know, without just assuming it's the way it is. And the final thing that I would like to do, and I think this is very important, is to take a piece, turn it to the wall, and leave it for at least a week, and then come back and look at it fresh. And it's just amazing how different it looks after a while.
Okay. Oh, whoops. That was, yep. I think that is our last one. So I will stop screen sharing and there we are. Are we back, Paul?
Yes,
Well,
you are.
I hope that people come to Gallery Walk this week. We love having you there. And if you don't know where Legacy is, it's right across the street from Subway on Central. It's a great place.
Oh, it is a wonderful gallery. I always enjoy going not only to see the wonderful artwork, but Carol's usually there, and Richard and Beth Gipe and Pietri are always there and always make everyone feel so welcome and welcome to ask questions. And so we're very happy to have Gallery Walk. And please go out and enjoy Gallery Walk. If you haven't before, this is the perfect time to do it. And I just want to kind of put an appeal out there for people who enjoy the arts. We've all been kind of locked up for a little while now. Some kind of ventured back out this summer. But if you enjoy the arts, whether it's blues or jazz or visual arts, music of any kind, and would like to be more involved, you can email me. My email address is mzunick, so M like Mary, Zunick, Zunick, at hotspringsarts.org. And I can get you plugged into organizations or because all organizations, blues, jazz, cultural alliance, we all need volunteers. And so to support, so we can make sure everybody knows about our artists like Carole and Gallery Walk. And so it requires a lot of volunteers too, who just love to support and enjoy the arts. So, do we have any questions or?
We do have a couple things. First of all, Charlie Moore wants to thank you for a nice program.
Thanks, Charlie. Charlie does some good programs too. He's always the old time music. He does some great old time music. Maybe Carole can do some old, for Arts in the Park next year, we're going to really be celebrating the music and arts of our heritage. And so Charlie's going to be working with us on that. So maybe Carole can do some banjo players or, some old time instruments.
And then we had a couple things from Scott, who first of all says, I love your art, Carole. How do I find a copy of Lonely Teenager?
Oh, you can go online. There's still some copies here and there, but go online and put in the name of the book and you'll be able to find people who are selling it.
And then Scott also says, you should tell your Sonny Liston story.
Oh, my Sonny Liston story. Somehow I've ended up with a lot of photographers in my life. And one of my friends in high school was a photographer, and we were very close for years. He ended up doing a lot of photographs for Playboy and other major magazines. Anyway, at one point, he became Sonny Liston's official photographer. And so before the fight with Cassius Clay, that first fight between them, Sonny Liston invited my friend Nick DeSoyce to come to Las Vegas to shoot photographs during the preparations for the fight. And Nick invited me to go along. So I got to go and meet Sonny Liston before this big fight. And the reason that Scott talks about this is that on my personal website, one of the photos I have is me in Sonny Liston's arms. He's holding me up in the air. And it was a very fun moment.
What is your website, Carole?
CaroleKatchen.com.
All right, and looks like that's what we have. Well, thank you for your time and for sharing all of that. It was very, very peaceful art and some peaceful stories. And thank you for organizing this, Mary, as always.
Oh, happy to. Thank you so much, Carole, for being a part of it. Carole always has a smile on her face. Everyone feels welcome. And I know you're a fantastic teacher, too. All your students just love you. So maybe there's even some prospective art students out there who have always wanted to take art. Well, now's the time, and Carole's the person. So.
Exactly. And there's one thing I have to say before we leave, and that is that one of the greatest things about Hot Springs is the library. And so I just want you to know how much you are appreciated.
We'll appreciate that.
Absolutely. Virtual programming has been just a lifesaver for so many people to still feel connected to their community and to each other. So thank you to you and everybody at the library for all you've done. That's so true, Carole.
Of course, not a problem. And it's not going anywhere. Even when we return to in-person programs, like I was telling you earlier, we'll adopt some kind of hybrid format because these virtual programs, they reach so many people that may not be able to come right at that time that we had scheduled a presentation like this. So it's good to have this as an option going forward always. But Mary, what's do we have anything for our next event, or is that to be announced?
To be announced. To be announced. For right now, we've just got to think about what's coming up next, and we have gallery walk and blues and jazz and the muses, and September is going to be a great month. And then in October, so that people can put it on their calendar, after gallery walk, we have low key arts. The first weekend in October, first weekends are always big. Low key arts will be out at Cedar Glades with a great lineup. People can even go out and camp. And then immediately after that, the following week, we have Hot Springs Documentary Film Festival, the 30th anniversary, the oldest all documentary film festival in North America and second oldest in the world. And it's here in Hot Springs. So, you know, where else, what other small city in America has as much going on as we do?
Well said. All right. Well, thank you both once again. And thank you everyone for watching, and be safe, and see you next time.